Hi guys, my name's Dav and welcome to D&DGaming. If this is your first time visiting our channel, we provide honest and in-depth game reviews on a wide range of PC games and review them from the perspective of two experienced gamers. We highly recommend you click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our up and coming game reviews. If you find you like this review, remember to give it a thumbs up by hitting that like button. With that said, in for review this time around is katana wielding, bullet dodging, free running, ball achingly, rage quittingly difficult Ghostrunner. Reviewing the game with me is my brother Dale.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Ghostrunner is a cyberpunk action platformer co-developed by Slipgate Ironworks and One More Level and co-published by D&DGaming and 505 Games. It was released for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in October 2020 and Nintendo Switch in November 2020, followed by a next-gen release for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S in September 2021. Story expansion titled Ghostrunner Project Hell was released in March 2022. So Dav, what are your first impressions?
My first impressions before playing this were kind of Mirror's Edge with a katana blade, I guess. Free running style game set in a futuristic environment that graphically looks really, really nice.
Yeah, I'd already played the demo prior to the game being released, and although it is a relatively short demo, I got a good feel for the game. My initial impression was that it was basically seemed like Mirror's Edge, but with a weapon and a more cyberpunk setting. So what are your general thoughts following your playthrough?
I was really looking forward to playing this, and well, let's say it's not all that bad, but certainly not quite what I'd hoped for following my playthrough of the trial version back in 2020.
I was also looking forward to playing this one, but quite quickly realised it wasn't really what I was hoping for. Mirror's Edge is definitely up there with one of my favourite games, and I was really hoping this would be a more modernised version of that, but unfortunately it doesn't really come close for me.
So in terms of graphic options, there's a nice array of options to choose from to make the most of the game's graphics, including a FOV slider.
Yeah, there are decent graphic options in this one. You've got DLSS and ray tracing are available if you have an RTX card, and there's also the AMD FSR if you have an AMD card. You've got all the usual post-processing options there as well. So in terms of graphics themselves and graphics performance, this ran really well for me. I had mostly everything on Epic and the highest settings. I was able to utilize the NVIDIA DLSS as I have an RTX card. I didn't use the ray tracing though, as I wanted to run with the FPS as high as possible. I've got a 144 Hz monitor and the ray tracing can really hammer the performance sometimes. But yeah, it's a great looking game. I did stop a few times just to look around and admire the graphics. I think they did a mostly okay job of capturing that cyberpunk vibe, but I did realise there wasn't an awful lot in terms of atmosphere really once you started to look closer, because the levels are largely void of any activity and they're mostly just the static objects in the background. The first level really kind of sets the scene, but after that, yeah, I found they could have really added more to those kind of backgrounds and made it more atmospheric for sure.
We'll put our PC specs up on screen as always, but I ran the game on the highest graphic settings, which is typically Epic. It ran perfectly well on my PC with no frame drops or graphical issues of any kind, and I was running it in DirectX 11. So in terms of graphics themselves, they're absolutely gorgeous. I really can't fault it here. The environment has a cyberpunk aesthetic. It's really well done. And even though it's a free running game, so you tend to blast through the areas quite quickly, you can't help stopping and looking around at the city skyline environments where it opens up. But I do agree with Dale that some of the backgrounds are pretty static. So in terms of controls, they're pretty simple. WASD for movement, control to crouch or slide, shift to dash, Q to perform a special skill, of which there are 4 unlockable skills selected using the numbers 1 to 4, left mouse click to swing the katana, and right click to use the gap jammer, a kind of electric whip that enables you to swing across large gaps between platforms. The game has full key rebinding available in the controls menu, and the game also has full controller support available, although we didn't test this as part of our review.
So in terms of the game's story, you play as a technologically enhanced superhuman known as the Ghostrunner, and also known as Jack by the Climbers, a group of rebels that rebuilt you. After an unspecified global event known as the Burst, you awaken with no recollection of the event. As you begin to regain consciousness, you hear a voice telling you to free the architect. The story then begins to unravel as you learn that you are not the only Ghostrunner to exist.
So in terms of mechanics, you work your way through various futuristic environments using a free running style of movement, running along walls and vertical objects, sliding down slopes, traversing gaps, and using the gap jammer, kind of electrical whip of sorts. The levels are typically broken into sections, and the game auto-saves at the end of each section. Sometimes the sections are simply free running sections with no enemies, others can be a full range of enemies. As you work your way through environments, you come across a variety of enemy types. The enemies are mainly of human form, but have a variety of weapons from pistols, machine guns, and swords, and some enemies have shields. There are also robotic enemies, some that fly, others that shoot a huge ray beam at you. Some just come at you and explode, and we all hate those in games. Some of the enemies have a specific way in which you have to kill them. The ninja ones that jump at you require you to dodge first and then hit them as they land. Others run, dash at you with a sword, and you have to parry them before being able to hit them. However, no matter the enemy type, other than the boss fights, of which there are very few, all enemies die with just one hit. However, so do you.
There are also a kind of sub-level set within the Cyber Void, a kind of digital environment where you complete puzzles and unlock new skills. These are sometimes part way through a main level and sometimes at the end of the level. There are secret items to collect along the way if you can find them. These are sometimes new sword designs, sometimes audio clips to listen to, and other times just random objects which just sit in your inventory, which I did kind of find a bit pointless. At the end of each level, it displays a leaderboard with your time and the number of times you died, just to really piss you off. If you don't do a perfect run, you have to start the sequence over and over again until you do everything just right. Make sure you don't get hit once or don't mess up at all. It's one of those games where you have to get good quickly or you'll just end up smashing your monitor and rage quitting.
So in terms of UI, there's a fairly basic UI in this. Top right is a kind of mini map that highlights your enemies, but I would say it's more of a sonar scope than a map, as it doesn't tell you where to go, simply shows flashing coloured blobs for enemies and items. Next to this, your current objective is displayed. In the bottom left are hexagon icons. These display your special skills, the larger hexagon showing the one that you have selected. The white bar around the inside of the larger hexagon is the charge meter for the skill. This needs to be full to perform the skill and can be recharged by killing enemies. There are 4 special skills that unlock as you play through the levels.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, although I will say I did like the clean UI in this. There's no clutter really, so you get to really enjoy the graphics without too many distractions.
So in terms of sound and music, the sounds are really great in this game. Like with the graphics, I really couldn't fault it. The voice acting is really authentic.
Free at last. Pleasure to meet you. Face to face, that is. Now, let's take a look inside.
The music is quite varied and really suits the game. The environment sounds are really good and give that futuristic vibe to match the game's setting.
Yeah, I agree. It's great cyberpunk style music that really fits the setting perfectly. Great voice acting and general environmental sounds were great. Did you come across any bugs or glitches?
I came across a number of glitches where I got stuck in the environment objects, a couple of them that meant I had to restart from an earlier checkpoint, which was quite annoying. There were also a lot of points where the Ghostrunner wouldn't run along the wall properly for some reason and would just simply fall straight off.
Yeah, I did find the parkour system a little glitchy at times. Sometimes I find you just like stick to the wall, and other times you'll kind of clip through corners. And considering this is pretty much the main focus of the game, I thought it was a bit poor, to be honest, at times.
So to sum up, things I liked about the game: awesome graphics, stunning in places. The environments really felt lived in and had that cyberpunk futuristic feel to them. Because it's so ball-achingly hard in places, when you do get through a section you've got stuck on for ages, there is a real sense of achievement.
In terms of things I liked about it, the general cyberpunk feel to the game was great, really well done, and it's really everything I kind of wanted in terms of the look to the game and that cyberpunk feel. The graphics were really nicely done and captured that vibe perfectly. I did like the wall running elements despite the odd glitchiness here and there, and the whole, ability to slow down time. And I didn't feel these really got old throughout the whole playthrough. It's just great fun to run around in that parkour style.
So in terms of things I didn't like about the game, it's brutally hard. Don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy playing difficult games, but this pushes it to another level. There's next to no room for error, sometimes clunky wall running actions and one-hit death combine to create a rage-quittingly hard game that at times can really get under your skin. The quite random difficulty spikes also mean that some of the areas you fly through and others you can get stuck trying hundreds of times. Also, if you rage quit out on any section, you have to restart the level from the beginning again. And so being conscious of that means that when you do get stuck, especially if it's quite a few sections into a level, you don't want to stop trying that bit you're stuck on. And it could take hundreds of tries to beat a particular section. And trust me, you die a lot in this game. It gets quite frustrating. The weird cyber void levels that are sometimes part of the way through the levels or at the end of the main levels are headache inducing in their graphics. And although in places the puzzles you have to complete are quite well designed, it does get annoying towards the end of the game after you've been through quite a few of these levels. I really didn't like the ending. No spoilers here, but for me it felt as though it could have been done a lot better.
Yeah, I found one of my main issues actually was it was far too rushed to really enjoy. So it was kind of hard to take in the story and dialogue at times when you're being pushed through the level very quickly due to the obstacles, the enemies, and the fact that it's this kind of fast-paced parkour game. But again, you're completely concentrating on what you're doing, and I could kind of hear them talking in the background, and they're trying to forward the story, but I'll get past a section and think, oh, hang on, what did they just say? I just completely missed the whole part of the story. And yeah, it felt very rushed. I did feel that although some of the levels are really well designed, the others are really poorly done in places, and there would be the random spikes of difficulty that Dav mentioned, and that would just lead to trying one small section of that level just over and over again. And the whole one shot by the enemy, I mean, come on, how about some body armor or something just to mix it up a bit? It seems like one of these games that they've made it hard just for the sake of it rather than any logical reason. Why couldn't perhaps halfway through you get body armor or something like that so you can take a couple of shots? Would it just been good to mix it up? Like Dav, I mean, I've got no problem with difficult games, and game I really enjoy, Hotline Miami, you get one shot in that, but I'd still find myself doing the levels over and over again, but not to the point where they were too grindy, whereas this, it was just so much repetitiveness. It just got too much of a grind at times. I did find the checkpoint system a bit ridiculous at times. Sometimes you'd be right near the end of a section of a level, and if you died, you'll go way back. You'd expect to start kind of just before it, but it would push you right back almost to the beginning of the level at times, and that just led to far too much grinding. Like Dav touched on, if you quit the game, it doesn't save the checkpoint you were at, and you're forced to restart the entire level, which towards the end of the game can get quite long. I was really surprised when I first found this out, and I thought that it must have glitched or something, but it turns out that's just how they designed it. So if you don't have enough time to get through an entire level in one sitting, you're kind of screwed, and you're going to have to just find the time to do it all in one go.
So do you think there's any missed opportunities in this?
It would have been nice to have just a few more adjustments to the gameplay, really, in terms of the difficulty, that we've touched on. There was an option in there, I believe, to take an extra hit or an extra life or something like that, but it was very limited when I looked in the gameplay options.
Yeah, so I thought on missed opportunities, I think the dual sword wielding would have been quite a cool upgrade or unlockable skill, just to mix things up a little bit. So in terms of scores, what do you think?
This is a great looking game. Can't fault the graphics, and for the most part they really captured that cyberpunk feel, but the gameplay itself, incredibly hard and forgiving. You've got to really enjoy these type of games where it's a real hardcore challenge and you've got to grind and repeat, and if you like that, you probably are going to like this. I have found though that any satisfaction you do get from finally completing that level becomes negated by the sheer grind and repetitiveness of it. And it's really a game, it doesn't offer anything truly unique. I feel if you want a parkour game set in a futuristic setting, maybe just play Mirror's Edge instead. So this is a 6.5 out of 10 from me.
So for me, this isn't a bad game, but after playing the trial version, I guess I'd set myself up for what the game could have been like, and maybe I set my bar too high or something. I feel like the difficulty is so much so that the game doesn't flow as well as I thought it would, or as well as it could have, and I feel that that's quite vital for a free running game. The difficulty spikes mean that it can be nicely flowing and then suddenly grinds to a halt, while you take hundreds of retries for a section. These can then wear you down, and the enjoyment of the flowing section just before disappears as you keep trying the same section over and over again. So all things considered, it's a 7.5 out of 10 from me. Well guys, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Hit that bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, and we'll see you in the next one.
You've silenced her.
I couldn't stand the noise.